Okay. And we go back to the journal. Where is the pen? Okay. So yesterday we introduced the the model of push down automata in the last class, I mean, right? And as you know, push down automaton has a finite control. It has an input head where it reads one letter of the input word at a time, scanning from left to right, and as it also has an additional stack memory, right? Now here, after processing these initial four letters A, B, this is the configuration that you have achieved in the automaton. And what does this configuration look like? Currently the automaton is in state P. So we write this by saying this is the state. Then what is the remaining word to be processed by the automaton? Okay, it is B A, and that is written here. So this is remaining word, remaining input to be processed by the automaton. After doing some number of steps, this is the configuration the automaton has achieved. This is the remaining input, and here is the current content of the stack memory. So stack memory has got this bottom symbol at the as the lowest, then there's a C, then there's an A, at the top there is an A, and we can write this as the following string: A, B, A, C, bottom. So the topmost symbol on the stack comes first. Okay, so this is the stack content, right? And a configuration in push down automaton always has this three components: the current state, the remaining input to be processed, and the current stack, right? And then our push down automaton has got rules like this. There are two kinds of rules. One is the processing to be done on reading a certain letters, and processing to be done on silent transitions, right? So this one says if you are in this automaton is an example. It has a single state Q. So when you are in state Q and the next letter to be processed from input is a left bracket, and on the top of the stack is bottom, you replace this bottom symbol on the top of the stack by this substring, left bracket bottom. So basically you push this left bracket onto the stack, right? And this actually is a automaton which will recognize some sort of balanced parenthesis language, something like this. Okay, so what this rule is saying is, when you are doing a left bracket and if my stack contains the bottom at the top, then I consume this left bracket from the input word and push it onto the stack. Similarly, this rule says if on the top of the stack there is a left bracket and I am reading a left bracket symbol on the word, then I push that left bracket on the stack. So it doesn't matter what is on the top of the stack. If I read a left bracket in the input word, I push it onto the top of the stack, right? So as a result of rules like this, we will get moves in the automaton. And we start with the initial configuration of the automaton. What does the initial configuration look like? You start in the start state of the automaton, which is S, and the word X, the full word X, which is to be recognized. And the initial stack only contains this bottom symbol. Okay, so that is my initial configuration. You can see here, I'm trying to recognize the following word: left bracket, left bracket, left bracket, right bracket, right. There is a left bracket, right bracket, then there is a right bracket, then there's a left bracket and right bracket. So basically this word here. So I'm initially in state Q, my automaton is given here. I'm in state Q and the initial stack is bottom, right? At this point what happens? The first letter to be processed is this left bracket. And whenever I get left bracket, I push it on top of the stack. So my stack becomes left bracket bottom now. And this input word is consumed. So this is the remaining string to be processed. Is this move clear to everybody? Uday? How I move from this configuration to this configuration in one step move is clear to you? I am using this rule. The first rule. That is, whenever I am in state Q and I see a left bracket symbol in the input word, and on the top of the stack is a bottom, I replace that bottom by left bracket bottom. That is, I push this left bracket onto the top of the stack. This is what has happened. So from this configuration, I got this configuration on second line. Uday, is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Now from the second configuration, we try to get the third configuration. So Parth, can you say what is happening? The next letter to be processed is this left bracket again, this one, right? This
Yes,
one.
sir. Right.
So and on the top of the stack is which symbol? Left bracket. Correct? So which rule will apply?
First one.
No, first one applies only when at the top of the stack is a bottom. My current stack contains left bracket at the top and then bottom below it. So which rule will apply?
Second one.
Second one. Why? Because the letter to be processed in the input word is also left bracket and on the top of the stack is also left bracket. Right? So this rule applies. And so what should I do? I should replace this left bracket on the top of the stack by two left brackets. Right? This is to be replaced by this. So on the stack which was like this left bracket symbol is replaced by two left brackets. Right? Rest of the stack remains as it is. So is it clear how I get this third configuration from the second configuration? Okay. And from the third configuration, how do I get the so from this one, how do I get this one? So Anuj, you want to tell me? Hi Anuj. Okay, we are not able to reach Anuj. Rani,
Yes, sir.
so what happens? We are in this configuration marked circle. What is the next symbol to be processed in the input word? It's the first symbol of the remaining string.
Yes, sir. First symbol of the reference.
So which one is it?
So the open bracket.
Yes, correct. Open bracket. And what is at the top of the stack?
Open bracket, sir.
Open bracket. So which rule will apply?
First, second rule.
Very good. And we'll replace the top of the, we'll consume one left bracket from the input word, and on the stack that open bracket will be replaced by two open brackets, right?
Yes, sir.
So this one will get replaced by this two, right?
Yes, sir.
So I get this configuration. Now this configuration is interesting. You know, we are at this configuration, a marked circle here. Okay, here the what is the next symbol to be processed?
Close bracket.
Close bracket, and on the top of the stack is a
Open bracket.
so basically we are trying to process this symbol. Sorry, this close bracket symbol, right? And before that we had pushed an open bracket which was this earlier open bracket which I will mark by blue arrow onto the stack, right? When we process the earlier symbol we transferred it to the stack, right?
Yes, sir.
So now what we do is we actually match these two and say that those two match, and so we cancel them. So how do we do that? We have a rule which says if the next symbol to be processed is a close bracket and on the top of the stack is an open bracket, then I erase that open bracket from the stack. So I rewrite it by epsilon. Correct? That is what is this rule. So I apply that rule here. You know, this close bracket is matched with this open bracket which is underlined here, and this open bracket on the stack is erased. It is substituted by epsilon. So I consume this close bracket symbol in the input word. I consume the pop the open bracket symbol on the stack, and this is the new stack I get. So I think this is very important. For this move you should understand carefully. We are actually matching you know, the earlier open bracket, the most recent earlier open bracket with the current closing bracket. That is what we are doing by defining rules like that. That is our intuition. But basically the machine just follows this rule, right? So that is what happens. So this open bracket on the set gets matched with this and it goes away. Next we also have another open bracket that matches with this closed bracket matches with this open bracket on the stack. They get cancelled and we get this configuration, you know, the one here. one here. This push it on top of the stack. So we get this configuration. Then we get a closing bracket. So we cancel it against the open bracket on the stack and we get, run like that. At the end, if the string was balanced, you will always wind up at, you will process the full string and you will wind up with stack only containing the bottom symbol. This is what will happen. If the string is balanced. If the string is balanced, then you will wind up with a configuration which looks like this. Okay, because every open bracket will be matched with a closed bracket, they will cancel off. And you will wind up with a configuration which has no brackets left on the stack and all of the input is processed. At that point we have this rule, we have this rule which says that you can make an epsilon transition. You don't need any letter in the input word. You can erase the bottom symbol, that is you can replace the bottom symbol by epsilon. So you replace this symbol by epsilon and you don't consume any letter because it's an epsilon move. So you get this configuration. In this configuration, all of the input has been processed and all of the stack is empty. So in some sense we have reached the empty stack configuration at the end of the word. And this is what we will call as an accepting configuration. Where the wall of input is consumed and the stack has become empty. Right? So we have reached an accepting configuration and we will accept this word. So this is how the push down automaton works and it accepts this word. If the string is not balanced, then we will get a different kind of execution. So I'm going to do one more example, okay. So suppose my input word is the following one. It does not have matching parenthesis, right? Let us do a run of the automaton on this. So what is the start configuration, Arvind? Or wait, I'll ask you later. Yeah, Arvind, what is the start configuration? We'll start in the state. Okay, the automaton has only one state Q.
Yes.
So we'll start with.
So we'll start in that same queue.
What the string says? Yes.
The string itself is the full string, but the letter that we will see is just the first letter.
That's okay, but in the configuration we give the string to be processed. And on the stack, what will be there? What will be the initial stack? Just the bottom symbol, right? This is the initial. Now, what will happen? What will be the next move and what will I get?
Here, I mean, you will process the first letter basically. So
right. So which rule?
Look at,
at the top of the stack is the bottom.
Yeah, it's an open symbol, so we just have to put that first letter onto the stack.
Right. So that you're not actually transferring the letter. You are consuming this left bracket from the input word, and you are putting a new as the stack symbol as specified by the rule. Now that stack symbol happens to be open bracket, right? So
yes,
I will
because they have different alphabets. Because
right, stack alphabet and this, they seem to share some symbol in this. Okay, so this is what I will get, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Now Parth, what is the next rule? What is the next letter to be consumed?
Epsilon.
No. Why epsilon? Okay, if you which rule you will use?
Third one.
Oh, this one, third one. Oh yeah. So that is done on the closing bracket letter, and it substitutes the left bracket on the stack by epsilon. So you are right. So what configuration will I get? State will be
Q.
What will be left of the input string?
Close bracket.
And what will be on the stack?
Only
Bottom.
bottom. Yes.
Right? Because this will be cancelled off against this closing bracket, right? So this is what we get. So you are right. Now at this point, what can happen? Can we go anywhere? See, the next symbol we are reading is a closing bracket, but on the top of the stack is a bottom, and we have no rule which applies. You can check. There is no rule of the form Q on a closing bracket at the top of the stack bottom. First components are like, there is no rule like this. Correct? Do you agree? So our automaton will get stuck. It will deadlock. It will get blocked. It will get blocked, so it will never reach this accepting configuration of this type. Where the both the components are epsilon epsilon, and this word will be rejected. So you see, any word which is not balanced will result into some sort of block configuration of the form q with some string x which is non-empty, not equal to epsilon, or some gamma here on the stack which is not equal to epsilon, and it will be a block configuration. This is what will happen. So this is how it will reject the words. And obviously this word should be rejected by the automaton because it cannot move any further. Right? So you can study this, and you can see that this automaton will exactly accept balanced parenthesis language. It will reach an accepting configuration like this if and only if the starting word was balanced. Okay, that is the design of this automaton. In general, what can we say? We start the automaton in this start state, and we make one step move. So in some sense, here from this start configuration, let us call it alpha, in one move we reach this next configuration called beta 1, and then in one step move we reach beta 2. So you can say that from alpha in 2 steps you reach the configuration beta 2, the third line, right? So we can define as usual the reaching from one configuration to another configuration in n steps. Okay, that is it. The exact rules by which the configurations are changed are given here. We had studied this last time, so I won't repeat it. This is one step move, and from that you can define n step moves, which we have been using in these examples. And we have these 2 notions of acceptance. Now one notion, the one that we will use, is given at the bottom, called acceptance by empty state. That is, starting from this initial configuration, after a sequence of moves, if we reach this accepting configuration of the form q epsilon epsilon, where q is some arbitrary state, but the input word is fully consumed and the stack is empty, then we are accepting the word by empty stack. Okay, this is the empty stack notion of acceptance, and that is what we were using in the example, and this is what we will use in this course. But there is one more notion of acceptance which does not require the stack to become empty at the end. Instead of that, you have a set of final states, some subset of q. F is some subset of q, the set of states. These are final or accepting states, and from the starting configuration, if you wind up in the final state after processing the whole word, even if the stack is non-empty, because you reach the final state, you will accept. So this is called acceptance by final state. This is a different kind of acceptance from empty stack, right? So we have 2 different kinds of push down automata, those which accept by empty stack and those which accept by reaching the final state. These are 2 different forms of push down automata. Okay, it turns out that the 2 notions are equivalent. That is, whatever can be done in an automaton which accepts by final state can be mimicked by a construction by a push down automaton which recognizes by empty stack, and vice versa. For every PDA which recognizes by empty stack, you can construct an automaton, a different PDA which recognizes by final state. So I'm not going to do the construction. It is there in one chapter in Cozen. It will be not you will not be asked to do this conversion. It's not a very difficult conversion, but we don't have time. So these 2 notions of acceptances are same. We will stick with this acceptance by empty stacks. That is, you must reach a configuration which looks like this. Q epsilon epsilon, where q is an arbitrary state. So is the notion of acceptance clear to you? I think if that is clear, so any questions about push down automata and its behavior and how it accepts words? Of course, the set of words which are accepted by a given push down automaton gives its language, right? So we have defined push down automata and its language, the words that it accepts. And now we have this main theorem which says, okay, this push down automata are called non-deterministic because from the same P A symbol X, you know, I may go to Q replacing this by, let us say, alpha 1, and I can also have simultaneously in my table a rule which says PAX, same X, can non-deterministically also go to state R with some changing the stack by replacing X by alpha 2. So you can have non-deterministic behavior, and that is why you also have epsilon moves, right, which is why these are called non-deterministic push down automata. Sometimes this word N is used to emphasize that our push down automata can be non-deterministic, but whenever we write PDA we mean non-determinism is allowed. Okay, so that is this thing. Now the main theorem is that what are the kind of languages which are accepted by push down automata, and the main theorem is that the push down automata, non-deterministic ones, exactly accept context free languages which are defined by context free grammars. Okay, just as we had regular expressions and we showed that the languages accepted by finite automata are exactly same as the languages accepted by regular languages defined by regular expressions. Here we say that the languages generated by context free grammars are exactly same as the languages accepted by push down automata. This is an exact equivalence. Now of course push down automata, that makes push down automata more powerful than finite state automata, right, because it can recognize a wider class of languages. Now I will give you an outline of the proof of this theorem, okay, and the proof is done in two parts. First theorem is the following. Suppose you are given a grammar G in Greibach normal form, right? So what are we given? We are given a grammar G in Greibach normal form, and we are given a one state push down automaton. That is a push down automaton with a single state, like in the example we saw, okay, whose stack symbols are exactly the set of non-terminals. Okay, so what we call non-terminal become the stack symbol of this push down automaton, and the start symbol of the grammar becomes the bottom of the initial stack symbol, the bottom symbol. So bottom is actually the symbol S. So in some sense there is some relationship between this grammar and this push down automaton. Are you able to see that if you are given a grammar like that, we can construct an automaton which looks like this, right? And the rules of the grammar and the transitions in the automata should also match. If there is a rule like this in the Greibach normal form grammar which says non-terminal A goes to terminal C followed by sequence of non-terminals B1 to Bk, in my automaton I will have a rule which says the following: from unique state Q, on consuming letter C and reading letter capital A on the stack, I will replace this capital A by this string. I will consume this C from the input string and I will replace it by B1 to Bk. Okay, so I will, for every rule like this in grammar, I will add a transition like this in my push down automaton, and that is how I will construct, given the grammar, I will construct my push down automaton. So is the translation of Greibach normal form to a push down automaton with a single state clear to you? This is how we do. For every rule we do like this. Any questions here? So the role of non-terminals is being played by the stack symbol, and when we do a derivation we will get a sentential form. That sentential form, the non-terminal part of the sentential form, will be on the stack. We will see what such an automaton achieves. If we convert grammar to automaton, what does it achieve? What it achieves is that it gives the same language. The automaton recognizes the same language as the grammar. Okay, so let me show you that how this happens. So the theorem is that given a grammar G in Greibach normal form grammars only have rules of the following form: a terminal followed by a sequence of non-terminals, right? And for that, corresponding to such a rule in the grammar, we will add such a transition in my automaton. Okay. And my claim is, as a result, I will get the same language. Language accepted by the automaton will be same as the grammar. See, there is a correspondence. So here, I have the balanced parenthesis grammar on the left hand side. Let me draw a red line between them. To the left of the red line are the 5 rules of the grammar in Greibach normal form, which recognize balanced parenthesis language. This grammar we had done before. So this is, take it as given that this is the grammar which recognizes balanced parenthesis strings, and it is in Greibach normal form, because each production begins with a terminal symbol, either a left bracket or a right bracket, followed by a sequence of non-terminals, right? Corresponding to the first production, I will add a rule which looks like this to my grammar. That is, if I see the left bracket symbol, which is this, then I will replace S on the top of the stack by string BS. Similarly, this rule says if I see left bracket on the, if I see left bracket in the input string, then I will replace the S symbol by QB. So I can non-deterministically take this rule or this rule on on matching such a part of the rule, right? I have non-determinism here. Because I have non-determinism in the grammar, I can rewrite either as this, or I can rewrite as also as this. So I have a third rule which looks like this. So is the conversion of the Greibach normal from grammar to the push-down automaton clear? I have defined the rules of my automaton on the right-hand side of this line. One rule for one production of the grammar. This is how I convert the grammar to my push-down automaton. Okay? Any questions so far? This is a syntactic procedure. If you are given a grammar like this, you should be able to construct an automaton like this. Okay? Now you may ask, why are you doing it like this? So the reason is the following. If I have again two things, I'll draw a red line in between. Okay, red line here. Given the grammar, what can I do? I can start with the start symbol and I can start rewriting, using the rules of the grammar. And what I get is, whenever I rewrite one of the non-terminals by the right hand side of its rule, I will get sentential form. So I will get different sentential form till at the end I get the string that I desire, a string that is generated in the grammar. So here is a derivation in the grammar. We take S and we replace S by using this rule. S goes to left bracket SB. I will replace this S by left bracket SB. I am doing the leftmost derivation, which means I will always pick up from my sentential form the leftmost non-terminal. So I will pick up this leftmost non-terminal S and I will rewrite it by left bracket B, because I have got a rule which says that S can be rewritten as left bracket B, right? So that is what I will do. This S I will rewrite as left bracket B, and I will get this sentential form. And I will do derivation which looks like this till at the end I wind up with this balanced parenthesis string. Now suppose I give that same string to be recognized to my push down automaton. So my start configuration will be Q. This will be the string which was generated by the grammar, which is now to be accepted by the push down automaton. And my stack starts with the symbol S on it. This is the bottom of the initial stack symbol, right? That is how we constructed. Remember the construction, So whatever, if S is my start symbol, it becomes the initial stack symbol. So stack starts with S on it. Now what do? Since I had a production S goes to left bracket SB, I had added a rule which looks like this. On seeing a left bracket, I can replace S by BS, right? So what do? On seeing the left bracket, I consume that left bracket and I replace this S by SB. So what happens is, when I had a sentential form of the form, left bracket SB, that left bracket part is consumed from the input word, and this remaining, non-terminal string is put on the stack. Next, this S, is rewritten as left bracket B. Here what do? I have this left bracket symbol here. I added a rule which says that on Q, on left bracket, I can rewrite S by B, right? So here, sorry, that's not the rule I am doing, right? What did I rewrite it as? I did not rewrite it as B. Oh yes, left bracket B, right? So here what do? I consume this left bracket, right? I consume this left bracket. I think there is I have let me see what is the corresponding. This S we are writing as SBS. And how did we do that? Oh, this is the rule we are using. Sorry, this is the rule we are using, right? So since from this string SB, this S was written as SB left bracket SBS, what I do is I consume that left bracket and I rewrite this S by this SBS, which is by this rule, not this rule, but by this rule, right? So, you know, whatever happens here is being mimicked in the run of the automaton. The part of the sentential form which consists of sequence of terminals gets consumed from the input string, and the part of the sentential form which consists of sequence of non-terminals come onto the stack, and the two have one-to-one correspondence. So at the end, you know, when we get, you know, basically something which looks like this, you will wind up with a configuration which looks like this. And so you can see that whatever can be derived in the grammar is exactly what is accepted by the automaton. So you have to study this correspondence by seeing this example. You see it offline, but my theorem is that the language of the constructed automaton is same as the language of this. And this you can do for any grammar in Greibach normal form, right? So these two are equivalent. Any questions? Hello? So Uday, is that you are getting the shape of the argument? You will have to study this. And we are not doing a formal proof, but I think you can convince yourself, you know, by reading these rules carefully and comparing the derivation and the execution, which is on the next slide. You can convince yourself that this constructed push down automaton will exactly mimic the derivation in the grammar. And for every derivation, there will be a run in the automaton. Okay. And for every run in the automaton which is accepting, there will be a corresponding leftmost derivation. So leftmost derivations correspond to, you know, runs of the automata, and they derive the same words, which is why these two are equivalent. Okay, that is the theorem. I think what you really have to know is, you know, because this theorem is there, you should be able to convert the grammar to the corresponding push down automaton. Okay, and it happens to be a single state automaton. Okay. So if this part is clear, actually we can run this construction backward also. Suppose we are given a one state push down automaton whose stack alphabet is called n, you know, then we can construct a Greibach null formal grammar whose non-terminals we will call as n. So whatever is the stack alphabet will become the set of non-terminals in my grammar. Okay? And you know, if S is my start state, if S is my bottom of stack symbol, I will make that as the start symbol of the grammar. Okay, so whatever is the bottom of stack symbol in my NPDA, now I am going from NPDA to grammar. So I am going from M to G. In the previous part, we went from G to M. We can go from M to G in exactly the same way. You know, the stack alphabet becomes the set of non-terminals. The bottom or the initial stack symbol becomes the start symbol of the grammar, and the production rules will exactly be defined like this. If there is a rule like this in my grammar, in my automaton, then I will introduce a rule like this in my grammar. Okay, there is one caveat. Sometimes instead of C we may have an epsilon in the automaton. Okay, So here, instead of C, we will get an epsilon. So we will get rules which are not in Greibach normal form, but the rules will be of the form A goes to B1 to Bk, right? So we will not get a grammar exactly in Greibach normal form, but we will get a context-free grammar. So we can always convert a one-state NPDA into a context-free grammar. And again, you know, since the construction that we did exactly mimic each other, the language will be the same. The correspondence will be exactly like this. So, you know, what my claim is that by running this construction in reverse with more or less the same proof, you can see that grammars in this form where C may be epsilon or non-epsilon, you know, or a letter, we have equivalence between this Greibach normal form grammars and one state PDA. So this you are convinced that push down automata have exactly the power of, let us call this extended Greibach normal form grammar, where this C can also be epsilon. So we have set up equivalence between, you know, one state NPDAs and grammars in Greibach normal form or extended Greibach normal form. Right? They recognize the same language. But what about the general case? You know, suppose we have a PDA which contains more than one state. Then what happens? There is a theorem that every PDA with any number of states can be simulated by a single state PDA which accepts with empty stack and recognizes the same language. So there is a transformation of an n state PDA into a one state PDA, and the way this is done is that we maintain the stack, the state information on the stack itself. Now this is a little bit involved, and I am not going to do the proof. The proof is in lecture 25 of course, and again in the exam I will not ask you to do this transformation, but you should know that n state PDA have the same power as one state PDA, and one state PDA can be mimicked by a grammar in Greibach normal form or extended Greibach normal form, right? So every PDA is equivalent to a grammar in extended Greibach normal form, right? Conversely, if you are given an arbitrary grammar, we can convert it to a grammar in Greibach normal form, and that is equivalent to a one state PDA. So in some sense, all these models have equivalent power, and push down automata recognize context free languages. That is the main important result, and it took quite a bit of effort to actually get this result in literature. So quite you know, it took several papers to arrive at this. So what have we learned? We have learned the following, that we had here regular languages, which is regular languages are languages which are accepted by DFA, which is also equal to NFA, and this is equivalent to regular expressions, right? That is, languages defined using regular is exactly the language is this. Now there is a larger class of languages which is, you know, instead of regular expressions we have got CFG. So these are called regular languages, right? These ones are called regular languages, and these ones are called context free languages, right? Context free grammars is equal to PDA, or if you want to be very clear, non-deterministic push down automata, right? So this is the kind of more powerful automaton that we have got, and a more powerful class of languages. This is what we have done so far. Questions? I know this is a lot to digest, but yeah. So Parth, is the diagram clear? Yeah, hi.
If we had to like convert from a non-deterministic PDA to a deterministic, I understand why this is a non-deterministic PDA, but I can't imagine how a deterministic PDA would be like.
Right. So it turns out that DPDA are deterministic push down automata, right? PDA. They happen to be less powerful than non-deterministic push down automata, and you cannot convert everything. You know, it's a subset but not equal to NPDA. This is the theorem. Again, something we are not doing, but you should know this fact. It's a good question. So non-deterministic push-down automata are more powerful than deterministic push-down automata, and there is a subset of NPDA called DPDA, and they recognize some subclass of context-free languages. These are called deterministic context-free languages, right? CFL. These are a subclass of CFL, okay? And there are grammars which recognize deterministic CFL, and actually it is these ones which are used in defining programming languages, because you cannot, actually make non-deterministic choices in the machine, right? That is difficult for a physical machine to do, correct?
So my internet, I lost my internet. Can you like repeat that last 30 seconds?
Yeah, so what I was saying was that deterministic push-down automata are a subclass of non-deterministic push-down automata, right? And the languages which are recognized by deterministic push-down automata are called deterministic CFL, okay? And they are a subclass, proper subclass of context-free languages. So there are languages which require non-deterministic push-down automata, but there are quite a few context-free languages which can be recognized by the subclass of deterministic push-down automata. And these are the useful classes, because deterministic push-down automata can be implemented. In fact, every programming language, now, if you go to programming language implementation, it will give you a stack in the environment in which the program is run, right? So and of course the execution has to be deterministic. So deterministic push down automata are what are the basis of implementation of current day recursive programs. Okay, so this DPD and all the programming languages are defined using deterministic context free languages. So there are special grammars, which are used to define programming languages, and they happen to define deterministic context free languages. So DPD and deterministic CFL is an important subclass, but we won't have time to do it here. If you do a course on compiler construction, you will probably do this theory there. Okay. So that is about determinism. So push down automata are not closed, not determinizable. So NPDA are not determinizable. There exists NPDs for which there is no equivalent deterministic push down automata. And that is one fact that you should know. Okay? That's a good question. Thank you. Any other question? So many important properties are failing for context-free languages. Firstly, they are not closed under intersection. They are not closed under complement. Also, universality of a context-free grammar is undecidable, whereas universality of regular languages is decidable, and regular languages are determinizable. That is, non-deterministic finite automata can be determinized to an equivalent deterministic finite automata. This property also does not hold for push-down automata. They are more complicated. This is the sum total of, the context-free languages and their constructions. So study this, and in the remaining 45 minutes, after a 1-minute break, we will begin with a new topic. So, any more questions on context-free languages? We have come, done 2/3 of the course, more than 2/3 of the course. We have done regular languages and we have done context-free languages. And while we omitted some of the constructions, you got the gist of the theory of context-free languages here, and its automata. They require these automata with stacks to recognize. Okay, that is the idea. So let me save this. Take a 1-minute break. Meanwhile, I save all this. PDA. And 2, no? Yes. And I will export it to PDF so that you can have the then I will quit this. I hope the recording is on. Yes, it is on. So what I will do is I will stop the recording